Hi, good morning. Thank you for joining us for the BPM Change Management PRR Review Monthly Meeting. My name is Nicole Hines, representing the ISO Customer Readiness, and I will be facilitating today's web conference. Today's call is being recorded. Those recordings are for informational and convenience purposes only. Any related transcripts should not be reprinted without the ISO's permission. We will be taking questions throughout the call today. You can enter the question queue at any time by pressing #2 on your telephone keypad. Please introduce yourself before asking your question. As a reminder, these monthly calls are structured to simulate an honest dialogue and engage different perspectives. While we welcome comments and questions, please remember to keep comments friendly and respectful. The purpose of today's meeting is to discuss the proposed revision requests that are in the initial recommendation stage of the process. We will be discussing 23 PRRs today. 8 are in the initial stage and 15 are in the recommendation stage. All have been submitted by the ISO. The purpose of the BPMs is to set forth business practices that implement the ISO tariff. The ISO conducts a yearly policy initiative roadmap process to consider and rank initiatives. Policy changes submitted through the PRR process will be referred to as the Policy Initiative Roadmap process, and each subject area in a BPM is based on enabling language in the ISO tariff. The PRR processes cannot be used to introduce changes that are not supported by existing tariff authority. So the first PRR we're going to be discussing is PRR 1310. This is the new requirements for the hybrid resource and transport layer security. This is the direct telemetry BPM, and it is in the initial stage. And I will hand it over to Priyanka to discuss this PRR.
Hi, this is Priyanka Namburi from ISO Metering and Telemetry Group. So PRR 1310 has been submitted to include the new requirements as part of the ISO Hybrid Resource Initiative. So the new requirements such as the telemetry megawatts and the net station data is required for all hybrid projects. For more information about these requirements, please refer to the BPM upgrade and also updated tariff language. The second update we have done is on the transport layer security for the TLS version. Once again, the more details are included in the actual BPM update. For the internet-connected rigs, the TLS version 1.0 and 1.1 will no longer be supported from effective June 30, 2021. And for the real-time devices or rigs that are connected using ECN network, TLS version 1.0 and 1.1 will not be supported starting from June 30, 2022. So these are the upgrades that are done for the telemetry BPM. And the initial comments, no, we have not received any initial comments. And the comment period will expire on January 5th, 2021. And the next step is the initial comment period will expire. And this BPM revision was made under an emergency revision, so updated BPMs are already posted on ISO website. Thank you.
Thanks, Priyanka. Do we have any questions about PRR 1310?
As a reminder, dialing #2 will indicate that you wish to ask a question. No questions at this time.
All right. My PowerPoint has a little bit of delay in my click, so I apologize for the pausing. The next PRRs we're going to talk about is 1309, which is clarification on point of interconnection changes, independent study process eligibility, interconnection financial security refunds, and allowable actions when projects are parked. This is in the initial stage. And PRR 1290, which are clarifications and modifications between Phase 1 and Phase 2 reliability network upgrades reimbursement, and date and interconnection requests for request and deliverability. This is in the recommendation stage, and both of these PRRs are for the Generator Interconnections and Deliverability Allocation Procedures BPM. So I will hand it over to Matt to discuss these PRRs.
Great, thank you. Hi, this is Matt Chambers from the CAISO's Interconnection Resources team. So I'm here to discuss a couple of PRRs. The first, PRR 1309, is the clarification on point of interconnection changes, independent study process eligibility, interconnection financial security refunds, and allowable actions when parked. The reason for these revisions are clarifications on point of interconnection changes, independent study process eligibility, interconnection financial security refunds, and allowable actions when projects are parked. We did receive some initial comments on these fairly recently. San Diego Gas and Electric submitted some comments on December 10th, and EDF Renewables also submitted comments on December 10th. Our next step here is we will be reviewing these comments that we received with our team and responding and making any changes in response to the comments and updating the materials posted on the BPM site. And the next item here is PRR 1290. This PRR is clarifications and modifications between Phase 1 and Phase 2, reliability, network upgrades, reimbursement, and date and interconnection requests for requests in deliverability. We did not receive any comments on this one, and the recommendation comment period expired on December 10th, 2020. Our next step will be to post the final decision.
Thanks, Matt. Do we have any comments or questions on these two PRRs?
You may dial #2 to indicate that you wish to ask a question. And there are no questions at this time.
All right, thank you.
Great, thank you.
So, thanks, Matt. So the next set of PRRs are going to be our settlements and billings BPM. We have multiple PRRs in the initial and the recommendation stage. Due to the number of settlements and BPM, settlements and billing BPM PRRs submitted, I'm not going to go through each PRR in title. Instead, I'm going to hand it over to Brenda, and she will go over the PRR titles and what stage they are in. Brenda?
Thank you, Nicole. So I will be presenting the PR. So we have 1308, and this one is submitted along with 1293 for the EIM Enhancements 2020 with symmetrical wheeling. We updated the effective date to 2/1/2021. There's an announcement for that. Currently, this one is going to go next to the recommendation phase, but we're also going to be posting this along with our 1293 because it's an emergency. But other than that, there is no comments or questions for this one. I have PR 1307, and this one is just to update multiple BPM configuration guides with our changes for the transmission revenue requirement detail for CAISO. And this talks about their transmission access charge rates, and we did update a few guides as well as the BPM. And we have the market service production team that were part of this update. And this is going to be implemented for the 1/1/2021 trade date. And next is to post the recommendation, and we currently do not have any comments for this. 1306 is a documentation change only for the following charge codes: 1591, 1592, and 1593. Simple, small change. The description here is shown, but this is also anticipating implementation of a retroactive date of 11/16/2020. We didn't receive any comments for this PR, and our next step is to post recommendation. Next slide. 1300, this one is also a small change for the charge code 6045 over under scheduling, and the description here is shown below. It was just pretty much indicating that we updated the business requirements for the 25% to 75% our hourly real-time load aggregation point. We did not receive any comments for this one, and our next step is to post the final decision. 1299 is in regards to a non-spin, no-pay quantity, and also documentation change only, and this has a trade date, implementation date of 12/16/2020, and the effective trade date will be 5/1/2019, so we're changing guides starting from, there's approximately, I believe there's 3 guides we're changing, but it's also going to be updating those guides for the non-spin, no-pay. Our next step, which we will be doing this week, is not to post the final decision and the guides as well. Next slide, please. 1298 is in regards to the Market Settlements Timeline Transformation Initiative that was part of the Fall Release 2020 Settlements, and this is just pretty simple. I mean, we all talked about this during our previous Settlement User Group meetings, and this is going to go in for 1/1/2021, and we will be posting everything this week as well for this final decision, and no comments have been submitted for this for PR. And then 1297 is for the Access Behind the Meter Project Initiative. Also, similar as the previous PR, it's 1/1/2021. We'll be posting all those guides to, for this week in relation to this initiative, and we haven't received any comments. And next slide, please. 1296 is a reliability must run capacity payments to ensure the residual unit cost, commitment costs for this dispute that we received for our settlements team. We fixed it, and we are doing the retroactive changes to trade dates starting from 1/1/2021. Oh, sorry, I apologize for that. 1/1/2020, and this is also going to update a few guides, and we're doing this. Yeah, and the next step is just to post final decision. Next slide. So 1295 is this low demand response enhancement documentation only change. And this is a trade date of changing it from the 11/18/2020 with an implementation date of this month. This has been spoke during the release user group meeting as well as a settlement user group meeting. No major configuration impacts, but we are planning to post the final decision as well. Next slide. 1294 is for day-ahead nodal pricing model initiative, just to go along with the settlement impacts and BPMs that we are updating. This is also trade date effective date 1/1/2021. We have received no comments, and next step is to post final decision. Next slide. 1293 is also the EIM enhancement 2020 symmetrical wheeling that shows the real-time energy, real-time consumption pre-calc 6895. And 6895.0 is with the other PR 1308. These are also going to be effective dated 2/1/2021. And our next step is just to post the final decision as well as with the guide. Next slide. And lastly but not least is the supporting of the Intertie Deviation Settlement Initiative. We have here, I'm showing the description what we terminated as well, what we added a new guide for one of our church codes. We have no comments provided or submitted, and our next step is to post final decision. If there's any questions, feel free to ask. We do have an upcoming settlement user group next week, but we plan to post everything this week for our settlement and billing BPMs.
Thanks, Brenda. At this time, does anyone have any questions or comments about any of the settlements and billing BPM PRRs?
You may press #2 on your telephone keypad to indicate that you wish to ask a question. There are no questions at this time.
All right, thank you. The next two PRRs are for the Energy Imbalance Market, BPM. PRR 1305 is negotiated rates, new process changes for Energy Imbalance Market, BPM, which is in the initial stage. And PRR 1289, which is a hybrid resource co-located resource phase 1, which is in the recommendation stage. And I will hand it over to Jamal to discuss these two PRRs.
Thank you, Isabella. PRR 1305, this is the IM BPM impact. This is just a new process related to the request for some negotiated rates. So now you'll be submitting through a city ticket application rather than the current practice of the email. We did not receive any comment on this particular PRR, and the issue comment period expired on December 10. The next step is to post the recommendation. I'll move on to PRR 1289, also for DIM. This is related to the hybrid resource co-located resource phase 1 initiative. And the purpose is to initiate a market model that will represent the multiple resources of different technologies that share a common point of interconnection, or POI, to the transmission grid. The effective date is scheduled for January 15, 21, and no comments submitted, and recommendation comment period expired date was December 10, and the next step is to post the final decision on this particular PRR. Any question on these two PRRs?
No questions at this time.
Okay, I'll move on to PRR 1304. Actually, this PRR is the same as PRR 1305, but this is for the market instrument BPM. The next one is PRR 1303, also for EIM BPM, and this is a change that is related to the delivery of awarded energy on enterprise and to improve the operational awareness and the grid reliability. It eliminates the decline charges and replaced with new settlement known as under-over delivery charge. Effective date is January 1st, 21, and no comments submitted. And the initial comment period expired on December 10, and the next step is to post recommendation. Any questions on these two PRRs?
No questions at this time.
Okay, and the next one is PRR 1288. Again, this is the same as PRR 1289 I just discussed, but for the market operations BPM. As a matter of fact, we received on this a comment on this PRR from SDG&E, and I posted a response on December 10 for this comment. Is there any question on any one of them?
No questions at this time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jamal. The next PRR is PRR 1302 for the Scheduling Coordinator Certification and Termination BPM. This is for Scheduling Coordinator Registration Fee increase and minor formatting changes. This is in the recommendation stage. So as discussed on the last call, there was a study completed by our Financial Planning Department at the ISO, and it was determined that the fee for Scheduling Coordinator application fees needed to increase to cover costs associated with onboarding and registration. The effective date for this PRR is 1/1/2021. We did not receive any comments for this recommendation stage, which comment period closed on December 10th. The next step is to post the final decision. PRR 1301 for the candidate CRR holder registration BPM is also in the recommendation, and it's related to the previous PRR. It was involved with the same financial study done at the ISO for CRR holder registration phase. So at this time, we've received no comments, and we will post the final decision. Are there any questions about either of these two PRRs?
As a reminder, dialing pound 2 will place you in the question queue. No questions at this time.
All right. The next PRR 1291 is the Reliability Requirements BPM. This PRR is for clarification of maximum deliverability due to the Hybrid Policy Resource Phase 1. It is in the recommendation stage, and I will hand this over to Melanie to discuss this PRR.
This PRR was for clarification of maximum deliverability due to the Hybrid Policy Resource Phase 1. The reason for this revision was due to the Hybrid Policy Resources Phase 1. Changes are required in order to provide clarification on maximum deliverability available to any resource or aggregation of multiple resources, including co-located resources. There were no comments submitted, and the comment period expired on December 10th. The next step is to post final decision. Are there any questions?
There are no questions at this time.
Thanks, Melanie. So that concludes all of the PRRs we're going to discuss on today's call. The next BPM monthly review meeting will be January 26, 2021 at 11 a.m. If you have any additional questions, concerns, or comments, please email us at bpm_cm@kaizo.com. Thank you all for attending, and I hope you have a good day.
That concludes our conference. Thank you for using Event Services. You may now disconnect.